Today, we discuss Miro. Today, I want to talk about the hellscape that is technical diagramming, right? Everybody's nodding their heads right now, And there is a potential solution that I want to share. There was one name that several people brought up. I did some digging, and it's kind of nuts how much this program Miro has for developers. I have to share this. It could potentially be a game changer for you. So my favorite part about Miro is that half the work is already done. Like right now, typically we spend hours starting diagrams from scratch, gathering information. You get buy-in from every team. That's a lot of work to do. But Miro has a full set of integrations with the tools you're probably already using. And they also offer open APIs and SDKs for custom solutions for all those niche diagramming use cases we have to do, right? So the end result is the same, but it doesn't take forever. It's a massive, massive time saver. I'm transforming basic flowcharts and network architectures, and it all lives in one place. So are you using Miro? Have you used it? I want to hear. That's MIRO.com.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen.
Hello and welcome to Gegenpressing, the Bundesliga podcast from the Football Grad Network. I'm your host Bryce Dunn, and joining me as always is Manu Veth and Chris Williams. Chris, how has your week been? We'll go to you first.
Thanks, Bryce. Thanks for coming to me first. It was good, thanks. Bit busy, obviously, as a Football Grad Network. We've been massively busy with the Confederations Cup. Whether it's previews or minute-by-minute reporting or press conferences that Manu's done out there, to all the social media stuff that we've done as a team. So, yeah, it's been really busy, and it's now a little bit of a chance for us to relax and get back to doing, what I want to do anyway, which is Bundesliga.
Yes, definitely. The international tournaments all seem to be gone now, which, Manu, you might be a little bit relieved of. It seemed like a rather exhausting few weeks for you.
Oh. It's been a very exciting 3 weeks almost, I guess. 3 weeks in 2.5 weeks in Russia, and to be honest, they all seem to have merged into one day, because that's how long it has felt. It's felt like it's all been compressed into one single day, and there's been so much happening and so much going on, and it feels like yesterday that I stepped onto a plane to Russia, and then now I'm back. And yesterday spoke to a whole bunch of the national team players in the mixed zone after their somewhat surprising Confederations Cup triumph. Although when you look at the squad, I guess it isn't that big of a surprise, but it's been a whirlwind, and I'm looking forward to laying low for 24 hours tomorrow, and then get straight back into full-on Bundesliga action, because the teams are back in training, players are back, getting back to their clubs slowly but surely. So, gearing up for what will be another exciting season.
Yeah, definitely. For anyone who doesn't know, Manu's normally based in Canada, and he's been out in Germany since we were all out there for the second last game of the season when we went to Leipzig and Bayern Munich, which seems almost like a lifetime ago. And since then, he's been in Germany, Russia for the Confederation Cup, and now back to Germany again. So yeah, it's just a little bit of sympathy for him. But he's watching football, so it can't be that bad, can it? It can't be that bad.
It's a tough life, really tough. Horrible.
Yeah, it sounds horrible. Yeah. Anyway, guys, we've got plenty to talk about today, especially starting off with the international competitions. Obviously, Germany coming out on top of the Under-21 European Championships, and also Germany coming out on top of the Confederations Cup. So it's a good time to be German. But everyone's talking about the squad depth and how good it is, and how they've got an A team, B team, G team, Z team, whatever. They've got numerous players to pick from. And we've all decided that we would pick our starting 11. Yes, they're going to be controversial. Some of them may not make sense, but I'm sure we'll do our best to explain. But I don't even know where to begin with this one. But Manu, let's go for your starting 11. If you can pick any 11 German players to take the field, well, who would it be?
I don't want to be in Joachim Löw's shoes right now because it's going to be a very tough decision. 50 players, that's what he has right now, considering that he left 10 off the squad, that there were 21 in Russia, 23 in Poland for the U21 title, right? That's a lot of players to choose from. So let me start from the back. Of course, Manuel Neuer, that's probably the easiest decision he can make. Although I think in about 4 years' time, Ter Stegen will be really pushing for that spot. Then the back three. That's also, I think, relatively easy. You got Boateng and Hummels, who are obviously going to start. And then you have to choose one of the 3 very good defenders from the Confed Cup, I guess. And the one that impressed me the most was Antonio Rüdiger. He was really steadfast. He's a very athletic, very quick guy. Big guy too. I met him yesterday, and you guys know how tall I am. He towers next to me too. And it's very, very strong, very well-built player. So I think those are the 3 in the back. Now, I've gone with a 3-5-2, similar to what Löw has used in this tournament. So I'll go with the 2 wing backs next, and that would be Jonas Hector and Joshua Kimmich. And they're 2 of the constants, really, because they have been, they were already in the Euros. They were playing as in a 4-man defense as left and right back. So they would be kind of slightly playing as wing backs, turning the defense into a 5-man defense, but also playing forward. And they both can do this. They're both very good in transition game. Now it gets difficult. My number 6, I would go still with Sami Khedira. I think Sebastian Rudi did an excellent job at this tournament, but it has to be Sami Khedira simply because of all the experience he has. So that is 3 in midfield already, if you include the 2 wing backs. Then 2 offensive-minded midfielders, and there I would go. Oh, that's very hard. I thought Leon Goretzka was very good at this tournament, and FIFA did not give him the best player of the tournament award, and he probably deserved it. So I would go with him. Julian Draxler was the player who got the player of the tournament award, but unfortunately for him, he will have a tough time, I think, getting necessarily always a starting position in the squad, simply because of the players that are not in. And for that reason, I would go with someone like Toni Kroos there on a slightly more offensive position. So that's my 5th midfielder. Then up front, he played with Timo Werner and Lars Stindl, so I expect that he will use a real striker. And that real striker will more likely be Mario Gomez than Timo Werner to begin with at the World Cup. And then he will play with someone like Lars Stindl behind a true striker like Mario Gomez, and that will be Thomas Müller.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. It's, I'm leaving out so many players, just at the top of my head. I mean, I had to get rid of Julian Draxler, who was the player of this tournament. Marco Reus, Mario Götze. The list is so long of players that I have to leave out. Ilkay Gündogan, who I think a lot of people would expect as well. Mesut Özil, not in the squad at the current moment. It's Serge Gnabry. Timo Werner didn't make the squad. Lars Stindl, who will have a good chance next year as well, go to the tournament, didn't make the squad. The starting 11, that is. So I think Joachim Löw is in a very good situation to pick some fantastic players, and he has 50 players to choose from at the moment. It's remarkable.
Yeah, very good predicament to be in, most certainly. Chris, do you see any issues with Manu's side, or are you alarmed by any of it in any particular way?
No, not at all. I've gone for a slightly different setup. I've gone for a 4-2-3-1. And that's probably so I could squeeze in more people there in the area that I wanted at the back. But it's pretty much the same, maybe a little different. I've gone with Manuel Neuer in goal. Hector, Boateng, Hummels and Rudiger would be my back 4. Hector, I've always liked. He's a brilliant defender, and if I could have him in my own team, if I was going to create Chris FC, you would be straight in there. Boateng and Hummels are just two of the best centre-backs, I think, going on the planet. I did toy with putting Sula in there, but I don't know if he would just edge out Boateng at the moment. And Rudiger, I've been impressed with whenever I've seen him. I don't watch much Serie A, but whenever I have seen him play, he's always impressed. And I was really impressed with him in the Confederations Cup tournament. He was asked to play, not out of position, but he was asked to play in a back three on the right-hand side of a back three. When he's more at home on the right back side, which is why I would put him in that area of the defence. Midfield, then I'd have Tony Kroos and Gunnar Youngden. Although he's not fit at the moment, obviously he's had a bad knee or bad knee. It makes it sound like my nan said that. He's had obviously a real problem with his ACL. So I would put Rudy in if he was still unfit in there. And then this is where I debated Draxler or Royce. I didn't know who to go for. And purely on the basis of, since he's left Wolfsburg and gone to PSG, he's done very well. And he really impressed me during this tournament. And he picked up the Golden Ball, didn't he, player of the tournament. So Julian Draxler gets in there. And then he will be... next to him will be Ozil from Arsenal, who is much maligned sometimes, but he has got a lot of skill, and technically he's very good. He's also a good visionary, and I think if you put him in the right side, as in the German national side with players around him, he's a better fit than he is at Arsenal. And then I had to get Thomas Muller in somewhere, so he's gone in there. But I could have gone with Leroy Sané as well, but I've gone with Muller. And then up front, Timo Werner. I've been mega impressed by him all season. I saw him score that goal with Tom Stark in goal when we were over in Leipzig in late May, and it's one of those goals that will stay with me for a long time. I've got a couple. I've got Luis Suarez's second goal against Norwich when I saw that at Carrow Road. That'll live with me for a long time. Daniel Sturridge's goal in the Europa League final will live with me live for a long time. And Timo Werner's goal against Bayern Munich will live with me live for a long time. And I think that was just... It just didn't look like he could score. And when he came on in the Confederations Cup, when Sandro Wagner was playing, I thought as soon as he come on, he offered more than Wagner did in 4 minutes than Wagner did for the previous. I think it was 65, 70 before him. But if Mario Götze is fit, he could also step in there in that striker role. But at the moment, I would go for Timo Werner. And he concludes my striker up the front.
Wow, eh? I like some of your choices, I must say. Mario, is there anything that alarmed you with Chris's side, or anything that you would debate?
The formation, because I think Löw is stuck on 3-5-2.
Yeah, but I wanted to get 4 defenders in it. So it's a purely personal choice.
Other than that,
play 3-5-2, but
yeah.
I didn't know if I would get rid of Boateng or Hummels, so I went for a back 4.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? And I think they have the flexibility to play both formations, no problem. When you clearly think about it, it's not going to be an issue for them to switch back and forward. But I think Löw's agenda is to really nail that 3-5-2. He's stuck to it no matter the opposition at this tournament, and seemed to almost have a good laugh. You know, just basically every time the reporters were like, "Oh, is he going to play this formation?" He's like, "Nope, it's 3-5-2."
Yeah, I think there's so many players for so many positions that you could probably be fairly flexible, couldn't he? But yes, we'll get to my side, sure, as well. So I went for a 3-5-2 as well, or a 5-3-2, or whatever way you want to put it, I suppose. So yeah, sorry about that. Sorry to be predictable. Hopefully the lineup's not as predictable, but it probably is, to be honest. So I've got Neuer in goal. Same old, same old. Then I've got, Hector and Kimmich, left and right back. And then I've got the 3 at the back. I went for Hummels, Boateng and Sula, which will all be at the same club this year, right? So, but maybe they'll play together. Maybe one will edge out another one. Let's see what happens. But could be a good understanding from the World Cup, eh? Then I played 2 holding midfielders. I've got Khedira because, as Manu said, just his experience. I think he's a fantastic player and gets all the credit for, or deserves all the credit for all the trophies that he's won over the years. But then I put Rudy in beside him. Rudy really impressed me this season, and I think his passing ability is absolutely fantastic. Even though you've got, I suppose, Weigl, you've got Gundogan, we've got quite a few players that could fit in there. I went for those two. And then a front three, I suppose, I went for, Draxler did enough for me at the Confederations Cup. I thought he's fantastic. I mean, we kind of said that he was a bit hot and cold, wasn't he, for Wolfsburg? But since he's made that move, he's looked such a better player. I went for him, Royce, because for Dortmund, it's a different team when he's on, in my eyes. And yeah, I went for Timo Werner up front as well. I've been absolutely impressed with him this season, and couldn't agree more with Chris that when we got to witness him playing Bayern just towards the end of the season there, he was on fire. And I think he can also link up the play well. I think he's got more to his game than just a bit of pace and a bit of a poacher. I think he's a hell of a player. I think he put in Goretzka with a fantastic pass in one of the games, maybe the semi-final. And yeah, I think he's got a lot to his game as well. So there we go. I mean, anyone disappointed by that? Surprised by that? Probably not.
No, it's a good choice. I'm quite happy with that. I think it's what we've been saying for a while, and it's been reported on across the world, I think, the last couple of days, isn't it? From America to Canada to obviously Germany, England, across Europe are saying it now, is that Germany got so much strength in depth. There's almost 4 or 5 teams that you can pick from, and they're all pretty strong. I mean, I know we said we wouldn't do benches, but I mean, the bench, if I was to have one, for me, Ter Stegen, Süle, Weigl, Chan, Goretzka, Wagner, Sane, Dahoud, Gnabry, Stindl. There's another 11 there, in essence. So, yeah, it's a hard one. What a choice, though, you'd want to have as a national team manager, Low. Well, this is what you want as a manager, to have so much strength in depth that you can just cherry pick at each single time who's the best at that particular time and what squad he will. I don't know how he narrows all of these players down to a World Cup squad. I would not want that. That will give him a few sleepless nights.
Well, I tell you what, Chris, he came through a mixed zone yesterday with a massive smile on his face, holding the cup in one hand, walking through, just saying no comments, but there was just that smile on his face. Because he got a lot of criticism for taking.
Oh, he did, didn't he? Because everyone said it was a young experimental squad, but.
Oh, that's cheeky smile.
They do what the Germans do well, man. They peak just at the right time. It was that last game against... last game in the group stages, they played well. And then they went in and just destroyed Mexico. Absolutely destroyed them. And you had that feeling then that everything had clicked right at the exact moment it needed to, above any other team there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a real sense of satisfaction around that team too. You could really sense it, that they kind of showed the country that that this was an important team and that this was basically a first team and it was just as good as the normal squad, and that they went to the tournament and did what the Germans do and win it. And I think you could really sense that yesterday with all the players and the staff, and you could definitely sense it with Löw because he strutted through that mixed zone, holding the cup in his right hand and massive smile on his face. It was absolutely brilliant.
Well, guys, before we were going to discuss the under-21s, the European Championship win, but also the Confederations Cup. We've kind of already started in the Confederations Cup, so let's just talk about that a little bit further before we go to the under-21s. Obviously, he picked a B team. He wanted to show the depth that he had. This is Low. And yeah, it's completely paid off. I mean, it's going to put fear in the other teams around the world when they come to play them at the World Cup. But I mean, there was players that Manu he possibly took away from the under-21s. I know they won anyway, but if they had lost that, would he been criticised for bringing players like Brandt and Goretzka along in the Confederations Cup rather than the under-21s?
Yeah, there has been that, because I think Stefan Kunz really wanted to take Leon Goretzka to the U21s, and some of the statements in the press were like, well, we should focus on the U21 tournament more than the Confederations Cup, and we should make sure that we win the U21 because it's such an important basis to win the World Cup later on, right? Because, so many of the 2009 U21 championship squad went on to win the World Cup in 2014. So there has been a lot of criticism towards that, but I think there were two very strong sides sent in the end of the day, and they both had some major players left out, either because they were hurt or because they were told to stay with the clubs, or they were sent, and like Goretzka were sent to the Confederations Cup instead of the U21, and the U21 still did a remarkable job. And playing against that final against Spain, we all watched it, and everyone raves about Spain and how many millions of euros all the players are worth and how they are going to be the best next thing on the planet. And maybe with the exception of the last 10 minutes when, the side that's down a goal always will press very hard, Germany had them. For 80 minutes they dominated the Spanish side. And that is quite remarkable given the players that are left out and given the fact how highly touted that Spanish side was.
Yeah, very much so. They played some scintillating stuff, and they're great players like Saul, who's just signed a 9-year contract at Atletico Madrid, just showing how good the quality is in that side. Chris, can I just ask very quickly, what's the biggest achievement here, do you feel, for Germany? The Under-21 European Championship victory or the Confederations Cup? You may say the Confederations...
Bryce, bloody hell, what sort of question is that? Come on. It's a good one. No,
if we're talking about the Confederations Cup, a lot of people say it's a bit of a Mickey Mouse Cup and nobody pays attention to it. But if you can win that with your B team and players that don't really get in the team, then that's almost a victory in itself, right? That makes it even better.
I think they're both as good as each other, because the Under-21 victory shows that it's the investment behind the scenes in German youth football. So you don't win the Under-21 if you haven't got 10 years of good coaching experience at the national side, also at the regional side, if that's not nailed down and if that's not to the highest quality. So that underlines that Germany's coaching has been spot on academy-wise and the way they bring their youth through. So that's a good indication of that. The Confederations Cup is equally as good a win because they've done it without, look who they've done it without. No Neuer, no Hummels, no Badstuber, no Boateng, Royce, Khedira, Kroos, Schürrle, Gomez, Ozil, Müller. None of them have been there. Now there's a World Cup winning squad right there. If you want to take 11 men to Russia next year, there's 11 that could do the job potentially and bring the World Cup back. So the fact that he's gone with a really experimental squad and proved everybody wrong. I don't think I did the Germany preview for Stadt before I left, before the sides left for Russia. I thought they would get to maybe the semi-final max. I honestly thought Portugal would be the stronger team here because of their squad depth and their squad experience. I didn't see Germany winning the tournament. Obviously, they're one of the strongest teams in the world, no matter what squad they have, and because of what we've discussed in depth. But maybe the Confederations Cup edges it because he's taken such a young side and gone and won the whole thing. And look at the teams they've played. They've played some good teams. And that Chile team, although Chile will be kicking themselves. I know I've got a good few friends who are Chilean, and I spoke to them yesterday when the match was going on, and they were real disappointed. They had the lion's share of possession early on in the first half, and they gifted a goal away, and they missed countless other opportunities. So were Germany a little lucky? Well, who knows? Maybe it's not their luck. It's the fact that Chile couldn't convert their chances, but they've gone and won it. So I would say they're both as good as each other in equal measure. As they go, I'll sit on the fence.
Yeah, may I just say that obviously you mentioned that it was a young team at the Confederations Cup. There was only 2 years between the Under-21s and the Confederations team that started in the final. Well, just under 2 years, actually, which is quite phenomenal, really. Manu, what would you say was probably the best moment from the Confederations Cup. I mean, would you say that maybe Germany didn't play very well throughout it, but were just efficient? Or what would your takeaway points from it be?
Oh, Bryce, I watched a lot of football over the last 2 weeks, and there was a lot of teams that, we watched the semi-final, me in the stadium and you guys from your respective screens. And I thought that Portugal and Chile, with both those countries, took the tournament very serious, very, very serious, to an extent that they literally brought the best sides. And we were all talking about how disappointing that game in particular was. And I think that Germany throughout the tournament played very well. I don't think they had one bad game. And I really mean that. Even the game against Australia, where they struggled a little bit in defense because of chemistry, lack of chemistry maybe, because they hadn't played together before. I thought that was very good considering, that they were lying on the beach 2 weeks before that. The second game against Chile, they went down early and did very well to get back into this game. Did a magnificent job to get back into this game and had a good chance to win this game, against a Chile side that I felt looked very old in this tournament at times. Average age 29.2, I believe, and definitely coming at the end of a cycle. Against Cameroon, no, they did what they needed to do, and it was very convincing, wasn't it? And then in the semi-final against Mexico, Mexico, went down early with 2 goals and then left themselves exposed and made it quite easy for Germany to pick them apart. And in the final, I think the worst time that Germany had were the first 50 minutes. Chris and I, we were chatting, and we had the feeling that they were maybe struggling with the occasion a little bit at that final. And then out of nowhere, they scored. And from that moment on, I actually thought that the game was 50-50 and that Germany had several chances to put the game away. Chile had some big chances too. But I think the difference between the two sides in that particular final was that when you look at the players that Chile brought off the bench, someone like Sagal, who misses a sitter out of from, 6 or 7 yards out, and he manages to get the ball across the crossbar. And then, that's Chile's bench. And that's no disrespect, but they don't have that depth. Their starting 11 has been more or less the same for the last 4 tournaments because they don't have the depth. And that's the difference. Germany brings on Emre Can, a player that then goes on, and because Chile were starting to play very physical, and Emre Can goes out there and he stamps his authority on the pitch. I thought he was magnificent when he came on. And that's maybe just the difference. The players that Germany brought on, they were fresh, they were young, and they were better. And, I thought that when you look at it that way, it really makes sense that Germany won this tournament because they, from all the sides that I've seen, and yes, this is a team that would normally not maybe start with this sort of setup, they are the best side. Period. And, they could go to a World Cup with this tournament, with this very same squad and have a chance to win it.
Chris, just speaking of that final, we've seen Arturo Vidal and Joshua Kimmich, both Bayern Munich players, have a bit of fisticuffs. Is that something Bayern should be concerned about, or was it just a bit of heat in the moment, I suppose?
I mean, it's something that they should be proud is probably the wrong word, but glad of. It shows that both of their players are passionate about playing football for their respective countries, and I would expect that they brought that passion back into the new season. I think I read this morning already that it's all in the past and they've sorted it. What happens football players are good friends off the pitch, and then they get on the pitch as rivals and they can't stand each other, and we see that throughout football. Of different teams, teammates, national teammates play for different club sides, and they'll get into spats, and then they'll come together and play together in a national team. Well, it's just the other way around here, isn't it? So Vidal and Kimmich have had a bit of a set to against each other on the national side, and they'll go back to training next week or the week after, depending on how many days they get off from Bayern for playing long into the closed season, and they'll come back and probably have a little laugh about it and get on with training per normal.
Arturo Vidal actually spoke on this yesterday in the mixed zone, and he said, we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. That's all he said. He laughed. He was laughing. Yeah, Arturo Vidal is actually a great guy in the mixed zone. He comes through and he speaks to all the journalists and he always has jokes. And I said to him, "What about Kimmich?" And he's like, "Oh, we talk in 2 weeks." And then he was laughing and he ran off. And it's football, right? I don't think there's going to be much to it.
Yeah, you gotta love Vidal, don't you? You know, he always seems like a nice guy off the pitch, and then would murder you on the pitch, right?
Seems accurate, so. Absolutely.
But just finally, before we move on from the international football, we speak a little bit more about Bundesliga. Manu, what was probably the best moment for the under-21s? Would you say that it was overcoming that early loss to Italy to then win it? Actually beating Spain, who were hotly tipped, to go all the way? Or is it beating England on penalties?
I'll have to go with the penalties.
Well, funny that.
It's always good fun. A joke never gets old. I think penalties, Germany against England, that's probably the only bet in the world where you pay in and you actually have to pay extra to get your money back. And it's, the moment I was sitting in a bar with a bunch of other journalists in Kazan when we were following the match, and I said it went into penalties, and we basically all put our phones down because we knew how it would end. And then we got confirmed. It's just one of those things where you're like, yeah, well, this is it. It goes into penalties. We know we've got that.
Well, a quick yes or no to both of you. We'll go to Chris first. Yes or no, do Germany win the World Cup next year?
No, because no team that's ever won the Confederations Cup has won the World Cup, so they've bogeyed themselves.
Wow. And Manu, yes or no, do Germany win the World Cup next year?
I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to make use of my Fifth Amendment. I'm going to answer that question. I don't want to jinx it in one way or another.
Wow, well, I didn't get the responses I wanted, did I? Anyway, we're going to move on. That's international football covered, I think, for a little while. Let's speak Bundesliga. Obviously, the three of us are very excited about Bundesliga coming back. We've still got another little while to hold out. But transfers and talk of transfers are going on all the time. And a man that we thought was gone. We thought that was it. He was never coming back to Cologne. Was Anthony Modeste, and it turns out it's all fallen through. Chris, would you like to take us through what exactly has happened here? It was a done deal, was it not?
Oh, that's the best phrase ever. It's a done deal. Well, it depends what side you look for. It's a done deal. We thought it was a done deal, as in, when I say we, that's a royal we, as in everybody thought it was a done deal. He'd already got on the plane before he'd had authorization to go over to China.
Silly boy.
Naughty boy. But once again, it looks like it's structure of payments that has let the deal go through. German sides, quite rightly, are a little suspect over Chinese payments. We've seen it in the past break down dramatically, where they missed a second or third or fourth instalment. So maybe they just weren't happy with the structure of the payments. It's a lot of money, and if you're breaking it down, it suddenly becomes a lot less money if you only get a third of it or a half of it. So maybe they didn't feel they had the reassurances to take that deal onwards. So, yeah, it looks like he's going back. But he's been linked with all sorts of clubs again, isn't he? So West Ham's the latest now that are trying to sign him. So, yeah, will we see him move there? It's evident. It looks like he might be on his way out of the Bundesliga. And, if he's been thinking about China, then obviously you'll probably think about England, because it's the wages that he'll be given, which will set him up. He'll get excellent wages at West Ham. Probably the man with the either biggest sigh of relief to hear that he's been linked with West Ham, or the biggest sigh of doubt will be John Cordoba, who's been signed to be his replacement of a replacement that's now not going to happen. So a penny for his thoughts at the moment. I would be surprised, though, if Modeste stayed. It looks like he's on the way out. Maybe Cologne are banking on bringing a little bit of money in for him. He could stay. I mean, we've said on this pod loads of times, haven't we? We'd like him to stay. I'd really be interested to see what he could do in the Europa League for Cologne next year. And, He was treated as a god, wasn't he, last season? And we saw him score some fantastic goals inside the box, outside the box, right foot, left foot header. So it would be a shame to see him go. But as I've said a couple of times, has he got that extra season in him? What he did last season was fantastic, but he's not renowned for it. So could he do it again this coming season? Or is this now his ticket out to a really good wage to see him for the next 2 seasons and then retire off that?
Manu, do you see Modeste moving on as well, or do you not see it possibly? They've managed to survive, an offer from China, and maybe now they can, just say you're part of the squad going forward next year. I mean, they didn't spend very much on Cordoba, did they?
No, they spent 17 million euros on him. That's a lot of money, but they can because they have money on the bank from the last 2 transfer windows where they didn't spend all the money that they earned. And there's a new television deal kicking in the Bundesliga this year. So they're getting, I believe it's 48 million euros from the television deal alone. Considering the fact that they have new advertising, that the new advertising deal, that their stadium is always sold out. They can afford it. They can afford both. And they are likely going to sell some of the other forwards, Rudnevs, etc. And still bring in Ud on top of that. The question that I have about this is Modeste has been massively backpedaling today in the media, sort of saying, well, he didn't want to leave in the first place. Köln forced to sell him. And in the end of the day, how it was his agents. It always seems to be agents that are the motor behind these transfers. And his agents wanted Köln to cough up money from what they were getting from China. And then on top of that, the Chinese clubs were wanting to pay the transfer sum in installments. Now, those 2 things are big no-nos for Bundesliga clubs. They want the money up front, straight up, as much as they asked for, not in installments. And the Chinese club thought they didn't need to do that. And Schmatke said, well, you do, and you don't. So we're going to call off the deal. And I guess the Chinese club thought, Tianjin Quanjin thought that was negotiation strategy, but turns out it wasn't. Modeste is staying for now, and I think there is a good chance Modeste will stay and will have to swallow his pride and play for Köln next season. Now, West Ham is a funny one because, there's links. They've been linked with other clubs as well, with other players as well, and I'm not sure that they would go for someone like Modeste, but I've seen funnier transfers to the Premier League, and they sure do have the money there to pay the money that Köln wants. I'm not sure they would be able to spend quite as much on salary. Remember, the Chinese taxes are very low, and the salary was somewhere in the region of 15 million euros. I'm not sure he would earn that at West Ham. So I think we'll wait and see. I think it's really 50-50 at the moment.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens. I mean, Cordoba's obviously come in, and there's talk of maybe another striker or 2 joining him. But do you see, even if they do make a few signings up top and Modeste moves on, Chris, do you see them getting the amount of goals back like they did from Modeste last season? I mean, he was a real cannon up front for them, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he was. He was prolific, I think is the right word. At times, he looked unplayable. Certainly, the games I saw him live, he was certainly unplayable. It's all about recruitment, though, isn't it? So, are they going to get a 25, 26 goal striker in? No, they're probably not. So they're going to have to look at, can they add 5 goals here, 5 goals there, 5 goals somewhere else to bring the team average back up to that. I don't think they're going to go out and get as I say, a 25 or even 30 goal a season striker. But if they, with Cordoba and maybe Uth, you could look at 15, 20 goals between them there. If you can look at other places in the midfield, can they get another 5 or 6? And all of a sudden, by replacing Modeste with 3 people, you've sort of backfilled that goal threat that he brings. So Cologne have got their head screwed on the signings so far and who they've been linked with. Certainly could add goals. It's whether they can add it as a combined total rather than a one-off.
Well, I mean, we always talk about, and I mean, the collective we, about your agents, you're obviously trying to get more money out of clubs and deals, and them being the real snakes in the grass a lot of the time. Do we think at all on this occasion that Cologne were actually happy to sell him? They were like pushing Anthony Modeste out, just like he said, because I mean, we have talked about how he was so good for one season that they may not get that again from him, and actually, that's quite a lot of money. I mean, it was back in January, wasn't it? We talked about him going and that being a massive loss, and they may not get into Europe for that. But actually, with the return of money that they were getting, it was probably better than getting into Europe. I mean, do either of you guys see that maybe he's telling some truth and Cologne were trying to push him out to make this deal happen?
Ooh. No, I don't think so. It's when you look at how this deal went down and the fact that Modeste actually, didn't he say at some point, we have to talk to Schmatke, quite in an open statement. That tells you that, that he was very happy with making this move, and it's a lot of money. And to say, look, you wanted to sell me, you can't. Players are always funny. I mean, this is a two-way road, of course. Players very much, they sign these contracts, and then at the first opportunity they try to get out of them. Clubs, of course, do the very same thing. They assign players to contracts, and after they don't perform, all of a sudden, you start training Group Bs, and you force them to basically resign to offer and take offers from other clubs. It's a very sharp two-edged sword, the player transfer market these days. But I do actually think that Modeste was quite happy to take all that money and move on. And when you look at the agents that are surrounding him, then you get the feeling that they were pushing very much towards getting their back pay deal out of this. And that's really how it works. It's the agents that get a lot of money. And I think Köln will be quite happy to just hang on to him for this season. They can afford it. They'll just sell some of the other players. They need squad depth because of the Europa League next year. So I don't think anyone in Köln is going to be very upset if Modeste is going to hang around.
Well, we'll just have to see what happens with Modeste or where he ends up, I suppose. But we're going to move on to another deal that's possibly, it's definitely been rumoured, but whether the club can make it happen, we'll have to wait and see. And that's Gabi Barbosa, the Brazilian striker, who just went to Inter Milan last year, possibly going to Stuttgart. Chris, I mean, how big a coup would this be for Stuttgart? And I mean, if we're talking about Stuttgart, they're not just your regular promoted side, are they? We've spoken many a times that they are a Bundesliga side, aren't they?
Yes, and when they went down, it was a shock, wasn't it? So they would have the caliber, rightly, to sign a player like this, but it would be a bit of a big coup because no matter how you want to dress it up, they are a promoted side. You can say, they're one of Germany's historic big sides. They're a big city with loads of followers, loads of fans, loads of industry in the area, and they're up there to be a powerhouse. But the truth of the matter is, they're a newly promoted side, and he's Brazilian. So, what's his knowledge of German Bundesliga football, and has he got any? Is he asked? ? Probably not. But could they get him? Yeah, they could, because obviously he came from Santos only the other year. They paid handsomely, well over the odds for them. Inter Milan did, probably around £8-9 million over the odds on market value at the time. He's 20 years old. He can play on either of the three front areas, predominantly on the right wing though. But on the signs of a coup, Stuttgart, as a newly promoted side, yes, I would say it would be a coup to get a young Brazilian like this, especially one that has been, touted around as particularly good player. He's played for the under-23s Brazilian. He's made 4 appearances for national side, a couple of goals. So, it would be a massive coup, I think. And if you're a Stuttgart fan, this is exactly the type of player you want to be linked with when you're back into the big league. And it shows a serious assault. And I think we've both said, the three of us have said that, but Hanover and Stuttgart will take it to the Bundesliga, maybe a little bit more than the two that have gone down. So Ingolstadt and Darmstadt, the replacement is going to be quality replacement, which will make the league a little tighter. So they've obviously got plans, who knows if they have the right recruitment policy, and we've already identified they're a big enough club. They could be knocking on the door of a European qualification place next season. I don't think any of us would be surprised about that if they could drag themselves up to 6th or 5th. They're a big enough side, but the only thing that worries me is him as a player. Is he going to want to go to what is in essence a newly promoted side? I think if you were looking at maybe a European player or maybe a player with a bit of a more link to Germany, he may understand where he's going to. But if they can pull it off, wow, yeah, it would be a brilliant coup.
Yeah, so from what I've heard, Chris, he wants to go. The big problem is the transfer structure. It would be a loan deal, and Inter would have to pay for some of the salary, which is of course enormous, because Inter has been basically playing Football Manager for the last 2 years, ever since the Chinese came in, and buying players left, right, and center without really knowing where to put them. And Gabriel Barbosa or Gabigol, to use some of his nicknames, has been a player who was brought in and they didn't really seem to have any idea how to use him. And Inter paid 29.5 million euros for him. It's a lot of cash, and they I don't even want to know what his wage structure is like. It's probably enormous. So the big obstacle is that the big obstacle seems to be the salary at the moment. He himself says he wants to come to Stuttgart, and apparently already liked the Instagram account and then quickly unfollowed it again, I guess because the deal wasn't done yet, to make sure that, we know how, all of us know how Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of stuff work. Fans watch those accounts like hawks, and they notice something like that right away, right? And it can really upset any kind of transfer or anything. So he's quickly unfollowed that, which then of course made people wonder if the deal is off. But from what I've heard, it's really just about the wage structure at the moment, and that makes it still a difficult deal for Stuttgart. But boy, could you imagine if they pull this off and loan him out for 2 years, and to have a player like that in your side who is very, very, very talented. I follow Gabigol quite a bit. We have actually an article up on him on Football Sidage from the Copa America in the United States, and he's a very good player, and a very good player who has not been given the time and the room to develop into a fantastic player that he can become at Inter Milan, because Inter Milan don't seem to really know what they're doing at the moment.
Yeah, but interesting to see if they can pull this one through. I mean, you'd imagine that also from a marketing perspective in Brazil, the amount of people tuning into watch the Stuttgart games and buy shirts would go through the roof. He's a very popular player there, and seems like his development has stalled a little bit with him spending time in Serie A without getting games or goals. So interesting to see how that one pans out. Let's keep our fingers crossed. It'll be an exciting time for the Bundesliga as well. But we're going to talk about other players coming in and out, and a bit of a rebuild situation. Manu, Bayern Leverkusen, I mean, we spoke about them last year, and obviously with Roger Smith, we gave him a bit of a hard time. He left, and things didn't look any better after that, did they? We also thought that maybe the relationship with Chicharito would maybe become a little bit stronger, and he'd get more game time, and that didn't seem to happen either. He now might be leaving, and he mightn't be the only one. Now, what exactly is going on with Bayer Leverkusen?
Oh yeah, that's so Heiko Herrlich is the new coach, and Hakan Çalhanoğlu was sold today to AC Milan. Speaking about Milan-based clubs that use the world as Football Manager, another team with tons of Chinese money, and they bought him today. And he was, of course, out for 6 months. because of the transfer ban that he got, because he signed a contract. I believe he was still 17 with Trabzonspor, and then resigned the contract and went to Hamburg instead. And he now just got hit with the 6 months ban. That's now going to be over in the summer, so he's off. But he's not going to be the last one. We don't know what's going to happen with Chicharito. We've recently heard that most of the squad, or a lot of the squad, is more or less, could be up for sale, or it would be available to a certain extent. Kevin Campbell seems to be following his buddy Roger to China, so he is probably going to be off. And it really leaves them kind of up in the air. That said, they did sign Kai Havertz to a new contract that sees him to stay with the club until 2022. And I know, Chris, he's a player you really like.
Oh, yeah, he is. Actively being scouted by a few Premier League teams as well. So it'd be interesting to see if they can keep hold of him, not now, but maybe the season after. But yeah, I've got a lot of time for him. He has got all the qualities for him to go a long way in the game, I think, at such a young, tender age as well. He's displaying everything you want in a footballer, and I can only see his development going upwards. It's just, will it stall a little bit now? He's got less quality around him, or will that give him the opportunity to shine? It's a catch-22 situation for Bayer Leverkusen, because if they have an exodus of talent and he is one of their only talent left, then he could become upset, or a little bit not very happy about it, unsettled, not upset, unsettled, and look to leave. Or he could just step up to the mantle and be the player that I think we know he can be, and then all of a sudden there's a bidding war across Europe for him. So they're in a bit of a no-win situation with him. But it's going to be hard for them. I was trying to see if I had a sound effect for a sinking ship, and I don't. But that's what Bayer Leverkusen is at the moment. It's a sinking ship, and it's almost been like watching a car crash in slow motion for the last 6 to 8 months. And I think it's really going to come home for them to roost. I think they replaced Schmidt at probably at the wrong time. He should have gone maybe a little earlier, but he was replaced incorrectly, which has then left the squad unbalanced and unhappy. If they lose Hernandez, which it looks like they will, that is a massive loss for them. Is Julian Brandt going to hang around? Looks like he is, but there's still 2 months left of the window. You don't know what's going to happen there. Obviously, Chaluka's gone. And then all of a sudden, some of the other players in the squad who are quality will start asking themselves, do I want to start the season here or what? Everyone's leaving. What am I going to be doing? I was promised Champions League football to come here originally, and that's not happened. So it's going to be a difficult one for them, and one that could see them spiral down, because if we thought they had a bad season last season with all that talent, imagine what their season this coming season would be like with that talent gone.
Yeah, it seemed like somebody in the background was agreeing with you as well. It definitely looks like it's going to be a difficult summer for Bayer Leverkusen. Manu, do you see it finishing and then getting into the start of the season on a positive note, or do you see next year being really another struggle for them?
That's a good question. I mean, is Heiko Herrlich going to be able to turn it around for them? And that's going to be an interesting one to follow. I think that there is enough young players there that can help them maybe get it done in a way that they have a stable season, and then maybe build on that. I find them hard getting back into that Champions League contention. I think that the sides ahead of them, Bayern, of course, Dortmund, of course, but even someone like RB Leipzig, they will be thereabouts pushing for a Champions League spot again. You have Mönchengladbach, we spoke to Ginter yesterday. It looks like he's off to Borussia Mönchengladbach, for example. They're rebuilding, they're making their squad stronger. There's a lot of teams pushing for the Champions League spot. Köln are hanging on to Modeste, it seems. Who knows? Even Köln seem to be ahead of them. Not sure if Hoffenheim can replicate what they did last season. But it's a competitive league. a lot of people always like to focus on Bayern München and how they dominate the league, but it's a competitive league behind that. And that means that there's a lot of teams going to push for that Champions League spot. And I'm not sure that Bayer Leverkusen can do that if they lose several key players, and whether Heiko Herrlich right away can put them all together and string a squad together that can, be actively challenging for that kind of spot. So I think what they need is a stable season, a season where some of the younger players, and we all forget that they also bought Bayer Lee, the Jamaican winger from I believe it was Genk last season, and we haven't seen as much as we all would like from him. And if Julian Brandt does indeed stay, still put a question mark on that, then they have a good foundation that they can build on in a year if they play a decent enough season. But that really depends on the next 12 months, doesn't it?
Yeah, testing summer for them. They're definitely going to have a lot of competition next year, aren't they? Well, we'll just have to see what happens with them. But we're going to talk about a player that we all very much like now, but he's parted way with his clubs, and that's Claudio Pizarro. Manu, we all said last year that we were big fans of him. He seemed like a very likable player, a good team to have in the squad, but unfortunately, he's aging, isn't he? He's turned 38 last year, and he's not getting any younger. And I suppose.
Let's just back up there a second. I'm 38.
Didn't want to say anything, but
he's getting old, and he's not getting any younger. Doesn't fill me with much confidence here, Bryce.
He's really old, and you better be careful. You could part way with us. That would never happen. We need your knowledge.
Oh, that's just brutal.
That would never happen, Chris. I take it back. Anyway, let's talk about Pizarro before I dig a bigger hole. Chris, let's go to you then. Claudio Pizarro, say something about him.
He's got nice hair. What do you want me to say about him? We've told you about him at great depth, haven't we? He's such a good player, and he's been everywhere. And when we say everywhere, he's been everywhere. All the top clubs, some of the top clubs throughout Europe, Bayern, Bremen, even had a little time at Chelsea. He is a model professional, and a joke there that he's the same age as me. He's the sort of player that makes me feel sick that he is able to do what he does at 38, and I can just about run up the stairs. It's just a testament to his professionalism that he's been able to play football for as long as he has, and where's he going? Unknown. But he's had such a good history, such a good career. That was the word I was desperately searching for there, career. And I've liked him everywhere I've seen him. He's an excellent forward, but then when I've had the chance to look at him playing attacking midfield, I've thought he can do that as well. He's a real good player, and he'll be a sad loss to the league if he doesn't stay in it. But if he wants to stay in Germany, maybe he could go to 1860 man who'll help him out.
Yeah, that'd be great. I could just see him tear up the Stadion am See in Garching, score 5 goals, and get us back to the professional football. It's me dreaming. It's getting late.
Well, he could still become your top goal scorer, I suppose. But as Werder Bremen, I clearly don't see him as one of the cornerstones there, unlike what we see Chris Williams in this podcast. We just about hold together with him. There you go, Chris. But yeah, we're going to talk about Frank Ribery just to finish off the pods. He's now at 10 years at Bayern Munich, and he's going to be there a little bit longer, Manu, right?
Well, at least another year, and maybe a year after that, and then it's going to be very tricky for him. But it's a remarkable achievement to play at Bayern for 10 years. And Ribery is he's only a few games away to become the most capped player for Bayern, if that's the right term. Or the player with the most games for Bayern in the league. He is just a few games behind Hasan Salihamidzic, so 6 games behind him. Hasan Salihamidzic has played 234 games for Bayern. Frank Ribéry is on 228, so I'm pretty sure he'll get that next season. 10 years is a long time at a big club like Bayern. And when you consider that when Ribéry first signed, he said he will only stay for a few years and then move on to, England or Real Madrid or whatever. But then he ended up being actually one of those building blocks that helped Bayern become one of the top 3 teams in the world, and has really grown and become a big part of the identity. And he is, a lot of people are saying he's going to be up there with the likes of Franz Beckenbauer, Lothar Matthäus, Philipp Lahm, Stefan Effenberg, Oliver Kahn. When he retires, he will be in that pantheon of Bayern greats. And I think, given what he's all done and what he's achieved with this club, it's really remarkable. And what a player he is still. When he warms up, you could hear the chants, Ribéry, Ribéry, Ribéry in the stadiums, because people know when he comes on, you will get full power football, you will get dribblings, you will get tricks, you will get everything you love about football. And I think, even if you're not a Bayern fan, you have to appreciate what he does on the field. It's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic player of the years for Bayern and France, and one very much entertained us. And yeah, it'll be a shame once he does move on, but we're happy to have him another year. In the
I don't think he will
Bundesliga.
ever move on, Bryce. I think he said that he's going to stay in Munich. I think he holds German citizenship now too. I think he's going to stop playing, of course, but I don't think he's ever going to move on.
Would you see him getting a role within the club then?
Yeah, I think he would be the kind of player that Bayern would like to hang on to. Like they have done with Willy Sagnol, who's now back as a coach, or Vicente Lizarazu, who still works at the club, or Giovanni Elber is another one. Bayern are very good at integrating their former greats into the club structure.
It looks like he could be, and then once he actually retires, it wouldn't surprise me if he was an ambassador for the club for a couple of seasons, and then all of a sudden he's either taking his coaching badges or he's looking at maybe one of the more minor roles upstairs.
Yeah, youth coach. I could see him at that pretty quickly.
Wow, wouldn't that be exciting? Well, here's hoping that he does and he moves on to things after his playing days. But we're going to call it there, guys. I think it's been a great pod, even though we haven't got any Bundesliga games to talk about. But Chris, what have you got going on this week? Is there anything you'd like to plug?
So I am the new host of the Anfield Index Runner Pod, which is a pod for journalists. Sounds a bit snooty. It's not. We don't have any fan guests on as such. We just bring a few national and international journalists on and a couple of local journalists, and we just talk about football. It's not necessarily Liverpool related. We'll just talk about football. Think of it as a good Sunday supplement if you watch Sky TV. It'll be similar to that. So that's coming out. Obviously, we're partnered with the Anfield Index podcast channel. And this week, it is a full return to Bundesliga duty for me. So I'll be keeping my eye on the headlines, trying to get behind the headlines, trying to speak to people out in various clubs to get the headlines before we get it. Obviously, Football Stat got a little bit of a scoop earlier on in the week with regards to RB Leipzig transfer statuses. That doesn't seem to have changed at the moment. So we're just looking at improving the output, and not improving it, just getting the output more Bundesliga related as we run up now. Pre-season, clubs are back, teams are back, players are back shortly.
Fantastic, and congratulations on that new role. And Chris, just quickly, do you know when the first podcast may be out?
We're recording it Thursday, so probably Friday, maybe Saturday. It all depends when Gags has got them stacked up, ready to go.
Fantastic. We'll look forward to that. Manu, what have you got going on, or what would you like to plug over this next week?
Yeah, I just finished the Confederations Cup wrap-up, just my thoughts on the entire tournament and what Russia did well, what they didn't do so well, and what it all means for next year. So that's up on Football Grad. Back to league coverage, really. As Chris said, I think that really, it's going to be the same for me. Back to league coverage. I'm going to just take a few hours tomorrow and recuperate from the last couple of weeks, and then take a deep breath and get the structure out for what we need to do. With the podcasts, of course, the 3 podcasts that are on the Football Grad network. and all the articles that we want to do and what we need to do to be better next season. It's not just the players that want to improve. We want to improve our coverage as well. So that's going to be the task before the season starts.
Fantastic. And I've been your host, Bryce Dunn. The only thing I'd like to plug is the Golats, the Mexican football podcast that Manu and I are involved with. Should be recording Wednesday. We should be out Thursday or Friday, hopefully. We may have a guest on for the first time this week, which could be exciting. And unlike this pod, we'll do our best to not speak about international football. Only kidding, unfortunately we'll have to. But yeah, that more or less does it for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and auf Wiedersehen.
Ich warte seit Wochen auf diesen Tag und tanz vor Freude über den Asphalt. Als wär's ein Rhythmus, als gäb's ein Lied, das mich immer weiter durch die Straßen zieht. Komm dir entgegen.
Hi, this is Rachel Fisher.
And this is Desi Jenikin.
And we host the Hollywood Crime Scene podcast. We're really excited to tell you about the best Christmas ever on AMC+, where every day feels like Christmas morning.
It's the holiday season, and that means it's time to see old friends like Buddy the Elf, Heat Miser, and Clark Griswold. Plus, you get a stocking stuffed with highly acclaimed AMC series like The Walking Dead and Mad Men, new series like Gangs of London and The Walking Dead World Beyond. They're all here on AMC+.
So celebrate the best Christmas ever, anytime, anywhere. AMC Plus is the gift that keeps on giving all year long. Sign up today at amcplus.com. AMC Plus, only the good stuff.
It wouldn't be the holiday season if there wasn't candy, right? Celebrate the holiday season with the Holiday Crush. They've sprinkled candy with a holiday theme and fun-packed challenges every week for 5 whole weeks, finishing on January 4th. The more challenges you complete, the better your chances of unwrapping delicious rewards. So, are you ready to crush the holidays? Play the Holiday Crush now. Download it from the App Store, Google Play, or Windows Store for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Want natural, healthy-looking shine and voluminous curls and waves that make you look like you just stepped out of a salon? It's easy with Conair Jumbo and Super Jumbo Hot Rollers. These 12 ceramic flocked rollers heat up in just 85 seconds. And because they're infused with ceramic, they transfer heat evenly for big, bouncy, long-lasting curls. Twice the flocking of competitive products means more heat protection. Wire clips ensure a secure hold. Makes a great gift for yourself or someone special. Go to Conair.com for Jumbo and Super Jumbo Hot Rollers now.
Okay, here's how Miro works. See? It's amazing.
What's everyone doing at David's desk? Ever since marketing started using Miro's collaborative online whiteboard, he thinks all our other teams should sign up. Why? He says Miro's making his meetings disappear. And if every team gets on it, that means even less meetings. They're using Miro for brainstorms, mind maps, customer research.
So could we use Miro instead of having another 100 meetings for every round of feedback?
Yep. You can comment, react to ideas, even leave a recording on the board.
And what about presentations?
There are Miro templates for that.
How do you know so much about Miro?
I've actually been using it all along. I just used a Miro board to plan the best vacation.
Okay, I'm on board.
See how Miro users save up to 80 hours every year by meeting less and doing more. Get on board at Miro.com with 3 boards free forever. That's MIRO.com.